Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Alex Dworkin and I'm a managing partner at 40 Capital. Happy Friday, everyone. At 40 Capital, we specialize in a very unique mathematical approach to the stock market where we analyze the market and individual stocks in multidimensional space. And when we do, essentially perfect order emerges. On top of that, we've developed a number of very powerful timing tools. And when we combine both, we can very often determine what the overall stock market or individual stocks will do in both time and price, and we can typically do it on multiple time frames. Whether we're talking about long-term or short-term doesn't really matter. I personally believe our work is nearly identical to what Jim Simmons was able to accomplish at Renaissance Technologies. So our goal as a firm is to essentially identify stocks that will 2x, 5x, 10x within a relatively short period of time. So we're looking for the next Nvidia, Apple, Bitcoin, Tesla, Microsoft, so on and so forth. And we can typically do it with the help of our very powerful software that analyzes the market in individual stocks and in multidimensional space. So we have the ability to, for example, scan the entire S&P 500 and identify stocks that are about to put in very important, very major bottoms. And from those bottoms, our calculations suggest those stocks will appreciate quite significantly going forward. And we can very often tell which stocks will do that and by how much they will appreciate going forward. So for example, Lululemon today cratered and coming very close to our projection for an important bottom, and then from that bottom it will increase quite significantly going forward. If you want to see the exact specification of that particular trade, we do have a 30-day free trial. I encourage you to sign up or request a free trial and check out those and many more time and price calculations for many more stocks. So today we're going to be looking at the next fast mover that we've identified. If you're not familiar with our work, fast movers are essentially stocks that are expected to appreciate or depreciate quite significantly within a relatively short period of time of 12 months or less. So what you're looking is an example of what a fast mover is. And just a very quick education, what you see at the bottom and the top of the chart, the triangles, we call them cycle clusters. Not cycle clusters, cycle composites. And this is a very simple representation of a very complex mathematical concept. So what we found over the years is that fast moves in the overall stock market, whether it's crashes or surges, typically happen when a major cycle, there's a short period of time between a major cycle top, as is the case here, and major cycle bottom, or vice versa, major cycle bottom and then subsequently major cycle top. So if there's a short period of time between those 2 points, not always, but very often, the underlying stock will move in a very fast fashion, as is the case here. So this is the chart of oil, crude light, over the years, and as you can see, we had a major cycle top here. The stock or the oil surged into the top and then subsequently collapsed. So use it just as an example. And a very similar situation here. We have to adjust cycles here due to cycle expansion, but same case, major bottom here and then major cycle top here, and the oil surged between those 2 points. So that's what a fast mover is. With that in mind, let's take a look at our stock, and I'll explain to you why we anticipate it to move quite substantially going forward once the bottom is reached. So once again, you see these cycle composites at the bottom. By the way, the stock is FMC Corporation. I actually don't even know what they do, but in our particular work, it doesn't really matter. I've done a lot of work previously in both technical and fundamental analysis. I've studied most balance sheets and income statements that are out there, but this is the next level. This is much more advanced because it actually predicts what the overall stock market and individual stocks will do going forward, as opposed to what I think they will do based on whatever the balance sheet or the income statement or technical indicators that we're looking at. So I think it's important to mention here. So nevertheless, so once again, this is a very complex or very simple representation of a very complex mathematical concept. We have the ability to scan the chart back and identify these cycle composites and project them into the future. And typically what happens, there are multiples of them running at any given time for any given stock. But when we combine them together, if we know how to do that, we can very closely replicate the line that we see on the chart here. Okay? So this particular composite says that the stock is about to bottom. So as you can see, it's showing September 11th, 2025 as the bottom for this particular stock. Now, let me mention very quickly that we typically have a certain margin of error associated with these cycle composites depending on how long they are. And so this one would probably have plus or minus 1 to 2 trading months associated with this particular bottom. So it's not an exact date, it's just a neighborhood. So cycle composites get us into the neighborhood, and cycle clusters, which is the lines that you see here, which is yet another timing indicator, will give us the exact date. So cycle clusters essentially, once again, a very simplistic representation of very complex mathematical concepts. We have developed a number of proprietary cycles, and we have the ability to scan the chart going back, identify those cycles, and project them into the future. And what we found over the years is that typically very important turning points happen not when any particular individual cycle arrives, but when there are multiples of cycles arrive at the same time. So we have 2, 4, 5, 6, 10 powerful cycles arriving at on a certain date, or let's say plus or minus 2 trading days. Rest assured there's going to be a very important turning point for that particular stock or the overall stock market. Let me give you an example. In 2009, March 6th bottom, we had 15 powerful long-term cycles arriving on the same day, or plus or minus 1 trading day, if I remember. So if you're familiar with that concept, you know very well that there's going to be a very important turning point there. And of course, we did have that, and the market rallied ever since then. So these cycles indicate, as you can see, these 2 particular cycles line up with the upcoming turning point. I'm not going to get into specifics of exactly when that's going to happen. I'll tell you how you can get that information, but I'm not going to get into specifics of exactly the date of the upcoming turning point. But you'll know, you have the ability to find that out. So once this bottom is put in place, we expect the stock to increase quite dramatically into this top, which is scheduled for major top for November of 2026. So within a 1-year period of time, essentially, this stock is going to get a significant rally. And I'll show you approximate prices of what we anticipate to happen within this particular stock, but it wouldn't be out of character for it to increase, at least according to our calculation, increase upwards to 500% over this 12-month period of time. So let me show you the prices associated with our projections. This is once again yet another 3-dimensional representation of or just another way to look at our 3-dimensional calculations. And what it is telling us here is that the stock is going to bottom at this particular green region. As you can see, it is approximately $33 plus or minus, let's say $2. And once this particular bottom is reached, then we anticipate the stock is going to increase quite dramatically. So let me unclick some of the stuff and remove. Now I know for most people it looks like complete nonsense, because we're looking at some green regions, some triangles, squares. It doesn't make much sense, but you have to keep into consideration what's happening behind the scenes. The output you see on the screen in front of you, as I unclick this, I just want to show you how far we anticipate the stock to increase going forward. So this is what's absolutely amazing about our calculations. This is happening in multidimensional space. That's why you see the shadow representation of what's actually going on behind the scenes, and that is being presented to you on a 2-dimensional time and price chart. And the same thing here. But what's amazing about this is that our software is able to calculate where the bottom is going to be, that I just showed you, and then from that point it is able to calculate the next move higher. So that is what it's showing you. Now, typically in our work, this particular region can be dismissed because typically the stock breaks above this particular region, and I'm not sure what's going to happen to FMC from a technical perspective or from the fundamental perspective, but our work essentially indicated that once this bottom is put in place, it's going to increase to at least this region, which is located at approximately $200 a share. So from $30 to $200 a share, you can do the math. That's over 500%. And but most likely output is going to be around this area, which is represented by a darker region, which means we have a much higher mathematical probability of the stock going here, as unlikely as it looks at this point in time. I'm not, once again, not sure what's going to happen, but at least according to our calculations, it is suggesting that this particular stock is going to increase that much going forward. So these are our approximations in both time and price. We did issue a trading parameter for this particular stock earlier today. If you'd like to see what it is, I do encourage you to request a free trial, link it in the description of this video, and then you can log in. You can see not only what the overall stock market and mega cap stocks will do, but also stocks such as this, which is absolutely amazing that we are able to identify and project into the future exactly what's going to happen. So just keep that in mind. So do request a free trial if you're interested. Otherwise, we actually just had another webinar. We'll probably have another one in about 2 weeks where we discuss not only how we calculate the math behind it, but we also discuss the overall stock market. I'll post a link in some of the videos starting next week. Yeah, hopefully you can join us for that as well. What else? That's it pretty much for this week. If you want to learn about how we calculate the market, the link is also going to be in the description of the video. Otherwise, that's it. Have a wonderful weekend ahead, and we'll be back with more videos next week. Bye-bye.